while we do appreciate efforts that government has undertaken to print these documents, we are saying more actors can come on board, such as civil society, to reprint, to translate some of these key documents, but that's only when they're available online. But also we are saying there is need to include in the year-end report the detailed actual outcomes for expenditure and the comparisons between the borrowing estimates and the actual outcomes. An example I'll give you there is our yellow book. Ideally, we are supposed to have the actual expenditure beyond the allocations for the years that will predate the current year. But under the public participation parameter, while we do acknowledge that the Ministry of Finance and National Planning has established pre-deliberate engagements for the budget during formulation, and there are public consultations that are also held, we do recognize that there is need for us to expand these mechanisms during budget implementation to engage citizens as well as civil societies who wish to participate. We also hope that the ministry could consider expanding the mechanism for feedback that speaks to why a proposal has either been adopted, rejected, or deferred during the formulation. This will help us enhance the quality of submissions from citizens and also foster meaningful participation. And lastly, under the budget oversight parameter, among other recommendations, we are encouraging the need to strengthen and improve the audit oversight by the Zambia's Office of the Auditor General's Office, where we need to ensure that this institution has got adequate funding to be able to perform its duties as determined by an independent body. I thank you.
All right, at this point, we'll take a round of questions. If anyone has got a question on the open budget survey findings, please be sure to ask the question. So it's an interactive session. If you have any question, just ask. So what I'm sharing with you is the statement that's just been read. Remember, the statement is on the national budget issues. You've heard that Zambia has improved in terms of the accountability score. And recently we had talks on the, what did we call it? Where the budget was realigned. Yes, the realignment of the budget. Also, we did have talks on the 2025 national budget. So if there's any question with regards to that and marrying it to what's been read in the statement, please feel free.
I think I've got a question. My name is Prudence from Lamont TV. When I look at the latest findings from the open budget paragraph 4, which reviewed the mixed performance on the second pillar of the budget oversight, with the score increasing from 56 in 2019 to 56 in 2021, but dropping in 2023. But on the third parameter, which is public participation, we only have 2019 and 2021. Why don't we have a score for 2023 so that we do compare what has happened over this period when we've been seeing a lot of CSOs and stakeholders encourage public participation? I think I know quite a number of NGOs that are actually doing budget consultations and community engagement. So I don't know why for the third year now we only have up to 2021.
Okay, that's noted.
Yeah, thank you, Prudence. Would you like to take another question or would you like to respond to it?
Not a problem. I think what we should have also shared with you is the actual survey score. So we do note that we moved upwards slightly. The 2023 score is 26 out of 100. So the statement is just a summary, but we'll also share further information around that. But the main index that we're focusing on, where you agree with me, moving from 19 to 34 is quite significant, is on the transparency score itself. But yeah, that should have been in here. But if you can take note, colleagues, that would be helpful For 2023, the score on public participation is 26 out of 100. 26 out of 100. And also this information I would like to say is actually available online in terms of the summary survey findings itself, but also the questionnaire that we use. There's also a calculator on the International Budget Partnership page where an individual could assess different parameters. And I think it's also important to note that it's quite an intensive research. It's conducted over a period of 18 months. So we are assessing financial year 2022, but we only publish the results in the year that follows, if you hear me, because I said it's 18 months. So we started the process in January 2023, and these publications were ready this year. So we had to allow the financial year 2022 to come to an end. So for some of these parameters, there could be improvements in other regards, but it's a survey that is conducted every 2 years. So the last time we did this process was in 2021 when we released the results in 2022. Then another point to also underscore, beyond JCTR being the country researcher, once we do the research itself, an independent budget expert gives a peer review, but the Ministry of Finance also reviews the questionnaire. So it's a 3-tier process where the different actors come together and they agree on the score. So there are times where we would say a particular score is X, depending on the question. Let's say, for example, was the citizens' budget produced in the year 2022, as an example. So ministry might say yes, they produced hard copies, they were available in their offices, but according to the methodology of the questionnaire, if it was not uploaded online, it will get a lower score, for lack of a better term. But because those are international standards, that's what we want to emphasize. And for a document to be available in hard copy, it means there must be a soft copy version somewhere. So we are trying to see how we can work with our different colleagues in terms of the 3 key institutions, the National Assembly, Office of the Auditor General, as well as the Ministry of Finance, to see how we can improve Zambia's score. I don't know if there are any questions.
Please feel free to ask your questions. Remember, this is interactive. You will have to do your reporting. So Diamond TV has asked a question, and we hope we could have the question from even money if there was in the house, and other news outlets. So please interact with us.
Maybe I can add a question, another statement. This year's budget consultations, I think the ones that we had at Monombushi, if I compare the past few years to what happened this year, I can really tell to say the turnout was very low. And I remember, on the first day of budget submissions, I think stakeholders in the energy sector, no one showed up. It should have been just maybe one company. With majority of them not showing up, but they were given another day. I think at the end of the day to come, but still the performance was very low. So I just wanted maybe to hear from you as JCTR. Do you think we have enough public confidence in people submitting their budget proposals, or we are still in a situation where people are losing interest due to the fact that sometimes we do submit these proposals, but when it comes to the actual budget, sometimes we hear complaints such as what we submitted have not been fulfilled. Does that also undermine the public confidence in the budgeting process? I know we quite mentioned the number of increases that we've seen in terms of public performance, but I know this year's outtake was quite poor. Yes. So I just want to find out maybe from JCTR, do you think somehow public is losing confidence in the budgeting process?
Okay. Thank you for that question. Maybe not to speak to whether confidence is being lost or gained. I think one point that we do emphasize even in this particular document, so for participation to be meaningful, it has to be two-way. We have to engage. It's like in a household. If every year I'm telling you, mommy, buy me shoes, you don't buy me the shoes, you don't tell me why you're not buying me the shoes, or you don't tell me that you have heard this particular submission and you will get back to me. someone might not be interested in continuing to do that. So it's a point that we emphasize. There's need for us to enhance the feedback mechanism. Of course, the ministry might receive multitudes of submissions from different people in different sectors. And let's be realistic, if we asked everyone in this room to make a submission, we all want to see what we want to see. We agree, right? So it could be a wish list, but there could be a way that we enhance the feedback loop by giving the citizens guidance in terms of why certain initiatives are not being undertaken at a particular point in time, and giving broad feedback. I think that would be a step in the right direction. It's something that we hope to see. In a similar sense, you mentioned the budget consultations. So we're given a platform to make interventions, but even the interventions we make, we don't really get a direction in terms of the kind of submissions we are making. So that would help us enhance that level of interest. I think issues around the budget, one way or the other, we are all affected. Truth be told, government revenue is our revenue, and that is what is used to implement different programs, different projects. So it's quite key that citizens remain interested. We can do more to sensitize. I know this year the budgets, the consultations were being streamed, and there were also some engagements on some of the radio stations ahead of that just to generate interest. And people were saying maybe look for more interesting ways to present the budget. That becomes an avenue. In the same way, I think a point I would want to emphasize is with the auditor's report. Sometimes it's a very bulky document and citizens might not be interested. So I know Auditor General's office has produced a citizens version where they used cartoons to explain some of the issues that they have found in carrying out their mandate. That could be another way in terms of simplifying information for different people to appreciate the processes and to know why they are contributing to them. But it's a role that we all have to play, including the media. How do we get this message out there to different individuals? I don't know. Is there anything from your side?
Yeah, just an addition on what you have raised. I think key to it is the issue of feedback. When you look at it in terms of participation, when you look at the budget, where it's aimed at improving the living standards and conditions of people. So if there is no feedback, then it becomes a challenge for participation, because then if you're only participating at the formulation stage, when at implementation and evaluation of the budget, you're not really participating. Like I think she has raised the issue of one of the oversight institutions, the Auditor General's office. If there is no engagement with how the community is feeling, or the civil society or the media about how the budget is being implemented, then over the years we'll begin to see a drop in public participation around budget formulation, because then you're struggling to relate to it directly.
And also, I think a point to mention, and this is where we tend to miss it also as a civil society. When formulation, when the call comes out, we are very busy, then we go silent. So today is 22nd July, 2024, right? So we are implementing the 2024 national budget. We are in the process of formulating the 2025 national budget. 2023, we are expecting an audit report in September. So those are 3 budgets that citizens could relate with in present time. So how do we look at oversight, trying to understand what was the expenditure? If an allocation was made to this entity, was it released in full? This is where social audits and social accountability tools become important. With the current budget, I think we do have those monthly releases from Ministry of Finance in terms of expenditure. Are we on track? Are we going to meet these goals? Will Kafulafuta Dam, for example, be completed in the year that it was commissioned for? How much did government borrow? Because remember, we have the critical component of the annual borrowing plan. Are they borrowing within what is provided for or not? But we also look into 2025. How will the budget respond to contextual issues, drought, among others? So there are so many processes, but we get stuck at one stage, even with public participation. The interest is there at formulation. The minister will come in September, it's mandated by law. We'll look at allocation. Some will say this was not adopted, and we go to bed. But then how can we use other resources? Could it be CDF, among others? So that's just to help you appreciate that there are different stages of the budget. And until we can get our citizens to appreciate those different stages and participate in them, it becomes quite key for accountability.
Yeah, so that's been said. I don't know, not to attack your colleagues, but I think also as the media, the onus is ours to ensure that we are driving on the message that people should be able to consume. You know, we should be able to produce news that people will appreciate. So just look at the numbers here. The turnout. If we say the cost of living, the numbers here would be so enormous. We would have people even standing outside the door there. But then because it's the open budget survey, it's a conversation that the numbers are really low. So we also need to ensure that in as much as we you know, looking for news, let's look for news that will also help the people out there, not just the cost of living. Yeah, I'm guessing that's that, unless anyone else has got a question.
Okay, thank you so much. We are here. Come and see us whenever you want to see us.